You have just tuned into the Be the Ultimate You Talk Radio Show. I am Bernard Mitchell, aka Mr. BU. You with me for one full hour of information, revelation, and application, and hopefully there's no frustration. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome to another episode of Be the Ultimate You Talk Radio. This is your boy, Mr. BU, and I want to say welcome to Season 2 of Be the Ultimate You Talk Radio. I am excited. We went through 15 episodes in Season 1, and we're going to bring another 15 episodes in this next season, or current season, I should say, in regards to Be the Ultimate You Talk Radio. And we're bringing on more guests, great topics, and great inspiration, information, revelation, and application. So in the end, hopefully there's no frustration. All right. Now, today's show, first one of the season, inspired by a good friend. And this is something I want to talk about, and that is on avoidance. What we as people, what we do. We'll avoid the big things, talk about the small things. We'll do a sidestep to keep from addressing who we are. I know I've talked about that a lot in last season, but this is something, even in regards to my show, I would say. I've had many people who wanted to come onto the show, but could not. I would send them a sample of the show. I would send them an episode, and they would listen. They want to push the product, but they do not want to talk about the story behind the product. What inspired this to be? Who is the person behind it? And you know me, I'm first in regards to what's your story? How can people connect with you? Because the product will sell itself. But when people connect to your purpose, they will purchase your product, but they will invest in your purpose. So in regards to understanding you, in regards to you maximizing who you are, people need to understand you. Even great CEOs of companies and people who do great things in the community leaders and so forth, you will see many of them have a story. And it's their story that influences people to connect with them. It's the impact of their story, their history, where did they come from, their upbringing, what are their core beliefs. And this will determine, do I follow or do I press the unfollow button? Do I connect or do I have a disconnect? Well, that is something that we need to do. We need to stop with the avoidance. And for many years, even in this civil unrest that we're experiencing right now in the U.S., a lot has come from avoidance. Many people avoiding the fact, do acknowledge, but do avoid the fact that this systematic racism does exist. Avoiding addressing, but yet acknowledging that it does exist in some way, shape, or form. And if you're not part of the solution, then you are part of the what? The problem. And this is one thing that many don't want to acknowledge, the fact that they are part of the problem. That is another part of avoidance. Now, I'm going to just speak on a personal level. I know that was an example of what we have going on nationally, but just to speak on this avoidance on a personal level, because we can't have global impact, regional impact, community impact as far as your local community or even in family, if you do not acknowledge what's going on personally. Avoidance was something that I dealt with heavily, just in my transparency. We all have done it or do it currently in some way, shape, or form in our lives. And I'm not just talking about, I know, I'm not just talking about in regards to your own personal, some things you avoid, like the eating certain foods or those type of things. No. I'm talking about what's going on inside of you. What's happening in some areas in your life. what past things influenced you to become the person you are today? What are some of the things? Because see, even in regards to, if I could just take it back to the civil unrest, the reason why many people feel the way they do in regards to racism and so forth, the racial system, because of what's happened and what's not been acknowledged by many people in the past. What has happened to many nationalities in the past. Now I'm focusing on my own as far as the African American community. We have had a lot that we've come through 400 plus years. Now, I'm not going to make this a history lesson, but those who want to avoid, they acknowledge yet avoid what happened to people and how that has transpired and how it has like filtered into areas in life and living, employment, finances, in entrepreneurship, and most important, in mentality and emotions, your soul, your mind, your will, and your emotions. This has caused a great effect on many people. And now what we have going on is, because of the way we are in regards to technology. See, at one point, the media was able to do, and there's still some media spin happening today. But because of what we have in technologies, these supercomputers that we use as telephones, with these cameras that you can catch images, motion picture at will, and you can stream it live on location at any time. Everybody now has a paparazzi. Everybody now has, you will be exposed and you won't even know that you're being exposed. It used to be, these used to be the instruments and the tools of those who were in like espionage and so forth. But now this is, everyone can now shoot secret footage, take voice notes unaware. And what was once avoided is now open and exposed. See, same thing goes, let's bring it back to the personal. Because we have, especially those who become public figures, those who are leaders in the community, those who have large amounts of impact and impressions on people, you automatically, and let's not even talk about religion. Even when to speak on a religious, a ministerial standpoint, we all, when you take up a certain position and you proclaim yourself to be a leader in some way, shape, or form, or even by default, you become a leader, you automatically get paparazzi on you. You have your own personal paparazzi. You have people that's looking at you to see your every move, when you're going to mess up, or when you have a breakdown moment, or you do something that they don't like, or you say something that they don't agree with. Yes. Yes. Now going back to personal, even those who may not be public figures and leaders in the community, just your own life, just look at your own self in regards to the many things you have avoided, which caused you to become someone you're not. You're truly not. See, when I'm conducting myself as in the vein of a personal consultant, or coach, counselor, you must, in order to move forward, you must address, what's hindering you now. And for many people, what hinders them now is something that an unavoided issue from the past. You cannot move forward until for many people, not everyone, I'll just say for many people. I don't want to make it a blanket statement. For many of us, and I know this is the testimony for myself, I could not properly move forward until I addressed my past. My past had to be addressed in order for me to be able to even get on the journey, the road to be the ultimate me, to becoming who I am, to maximize my life. And when I speak with people in this regards, the first thing I tell people is my job is to help you save you from yourself. That's my job. If you're taking me on as a personal consultant, I'm going to help you save you from yourself. I'm going to watch you as you watch yourself. I'm going to help you address yourself, the man or woman in the mirror. And in doing so, there's going to become times, and I give this disclaimer to everyone, when you are addressing yourself, when you decide to stop with the avoidance and you are going on this journey, there are going to be many days over that you're going to want to quit the journey, quit the lifestyle. Why? Because for many people, it doesn't feel good to address the past. They want to let it go. They want to let it ride. But when you are trying to better yourself and better life and become the ultimate you, you're into this life of becoming. And like even in social, this injustice and so forth, you can't avoid what's happening in front of you. Same thing personally. You cannot avoid what's happened in your past that is facing you. You have to properly address. And when you continue to avoid areas in your life, you then neglect yourself. I will address more of that in the next segment, but I'm going to take a commercial break and we'll be back with more Be the Ultimate You Talk Radio. This is Mr. B-U. Welcome back to more Be the Ultimate You Talk Radio. This is Mr. B-U, and yes, we are talking about avoidance today. And I'm talking about on the personal level. And I know in the last segment I ended up with something that someone probably said, look, hey, Mr. B-U, that was kind of harsh. But in order to address what's really going on, you must be willing to acknowledge or address what you are doing. And when I speak with those, my mentees and those who I consult, both in business and personal, one thing that has to be revealed is, what are you avoiding? And many times, not all the time, not every time, but in many cases, many instances, many things are avoided because of one word: fear. Fear. Fear has kept many people from addressing what's going on within them, addressing what needs to happen in business, addressing what needs to happen in the local community, addressing what needs to happen within the family, addressing what needs to happen in government, addressing what needs to happen even in ministry. There have been so many facts, so many issues that have been swept under the rug. And you can walk into the room, so to speak, and see that pile covered up with a rug. I know you've seen it on some cartoons way back in the day. Those who can relate with me, they can relate to what I'm saying. You see, you're trying to sweep it up, and you got this pile, and you don't want to pick it up, but you want to get done real quick, and you see the little character take the rug and just drop it on the hill, the little small little hill pile of dirt or dust or whatever the case may be. That is how some people live their lives. Avoiding the issues, avoiding the topics, avoiding the heart talk that will open, unlock, and free you. Now let me take it to the civil unrest. I'm going to transition to civil unrest. Now we're at a point where, because there's been so much avoidance going on in regards to what's been happening with law enforcement, bad personnel in law enforcement, committing heinous acts. You're supposed to be protecting and defending, and you are terrorizing people in the streets. And let's talk about the African American community. Not just the men, women, and children in the streets. You're terrorizing them, killing them. And for many, even in departments, you're seeing this has been avoided in the departments. They've been sweeping it under the rug, so to speak, and the person's been protected by the big blue fraternity, the big blue brotherhood, so to speak. And now we're at a point where civil unrest has caused some civil actions to occur. Actions because of the avoidance of what's been obvious in departments, in the streets, and no conversations. Now you see there's a move happening, there's a push happening, because not only is it African Americans in the streets marching, you have others who are tired, other nationalities who are tired of seeing the brutal murdering, the unfit treatment towards African Americans. Now we see what's happening when you avoid. You avoid. Not just in law enforcement, any organization that you have, that you do not address the obvious, and you have people talking. It happens in ministry. When I say ministry, it happens in church leadership. Oh yes, I've witnessed that, and have went and consulted a few situations in that regards where there was some unrest in leadership and people operating, doing things and saying it in the name of leadership, and the people and the leaders didn't even know, or some people would address, and you would, because the person had talent, because the person brought something special to the table in the ministry, in the church, they didn't want to lose that person. They rather sweep it under the rug than to address it and lose that talent, that skill, that personnel, that dollar. Even when we talk about what's been happening with the children being violated. And when I talk about the form of violation I'm talking about that violation that we're talking about, sexual violations on children by personnel in ministry. That has been one subject that has been avoided in many places of worship. And here's the thing, not just one religion is guilty. It happens in many religions where children are violated sexually by sexual predators in leadership positions, and some who are not in leadership positions but hold a position that has been beneficial to the ministry, and there's been no avoidance. There have been avoidance, no acknowledging, no type of speaking up for the ones who've been violated sexually, the children, and for some adults who've been violated, and you sweep it under the rug. And you have people who there's unrest in many pews, in many churches. That's another example of avoidance. And when I'm talking about avoidance, yes, I know the personal, and then the person who's been violated, many of them have been put to the point of having to avoid it and try to live through their wounds. Unaddressed issue, triggers. There's a word now that many people say, and I know a couple of friends that say this. Something that happened is, I'm triggered. I'm so triggered right now. It is It is not the thing of speaking in popularity. We're talking about this is something that is serious, said in playfulness, but it's serious. You have people who are triggered. I ask, what is it that is triggering you? Well, I don't want to get into that right now. Avoidance. I don't want to talk about that right now. Avoidance. I see many people, those who I consult and those who I just have general conversations with, who are so accustomed to avoiding because avoiding is comfortable to avoid. It is more comfortable to live not acknowledging that you need help, that you have issues, that you need to confront someone or something, that you rather just live through it and try to wing it than to free yourself by addressing. This has been very unhealthy, not only for the African American community, but for those who are in other nationalities that see it. This has been very unhealthy, not just for those who've been violated in families, but for those who know it and living through it, and they know they're guilty of being part of the problem. I was told at a young age, silence is consent. If you know something and say nothing, but you know it is causing unrest, civil unrest, family unrest, ministry unrest, but you refuse to be the one to stand up. Because many of us heard this phrase back in the hood, back at the spot. I grew up hearing snitches get stitches. Snitches get stitches. You can't tell. If you tell, that's dishonor. You're a snitch. Well, in certain cases, I'm not gonna. Let me even take that back. For many people, they need that person to acknowledge what is happening. They need that person who would stand up with them, because that person helps them have the courage enough to be able to stand up for themselves, because they are tired of trying to go through it alone. And many people would make them feel like they're going crazy. Like they're going crazy, like they're losing themselves. How many times have you, how does that work? I'm saying, you know that there are certain people in the family, you know there are certain things that need to be addressed within yourself, and you just refuse to stand up for yourself, or stand up for the other person, or stand up for that nationality, or stand up for that person in ministry, stand up for that person in the pew, stand up for that person in public office. Stand up. Why is there honor in avoidance? That is like an oxymoron. We see more people who honor those who avoid the truth, because someone does not want to face the consequences of their actions. That is what we have now. What's going on within the African American community and the police. We have many people now who are coming forward. Back in the day would be considered snitches, telling on the police. But now we're at a point now where we're seeing our people being violated, murdered, and killed. So you have to talk. Forget the snitches get stitches. We need to stitch up our community. On that note, I'm going to take another commercial break, and we'll be back with more Be the Ultimate You Talk Radio. Welcome back to Be the Ultimate You Talk Radio. This is Mr. BU, and yes, we are talking heavy in regards to this avoidance, from the personal all the way to the community level. I'm going back and forth with this, because a lot of things that's happening, what we're seeing happening in our communities, what we're seeing was happening in between nationalities, some of it, not all, but some of it is a result of what we've been doing personally. personally. Even what's happening in our law enforcement. A lot of things have been instilled in us in early ages. One of those things I spoke about is this unwritten code about addressing, or not addressing, I should say. The whole notion of snitches get stitches. Don't be a rat. Don't tell on your friends. Protect this and protect that. Why should I protect you when I know you are doing something that's violating somebody else? Let's say that is the code in the family. You need to stop telling so much. Okay, now you have shut this person down at an early age. Not only will they not address what's happening and they see what's wrong in our community, they're not going to address what's going on within them. Something happens to them, but they've been told by someone who they trusted in an early age, a parent, or some type of legal guardian, or some type of influence. Don't tell. Stop being a snitch. Don't rat. Now, here's the thing, right? We want better for our children. We want to see better in our communities. But what we don't want to do is address what's happening. We want to avoid. Why do many of us want to avoid what's going on in our communities? Why do we want to avoid what's happening in our families? Why do we want to avoid what's happening in the marketplace, on the job sites? What's happening within our own families, within our own homes, within the community? Why? Because somebody doesn't want to go to jail. Somebody doesn't want to get outed. Somebody wants the corruption to continue. See, when you address things, you are now bringing forward the corruption that is happening, the trouble in the system. It's like this here, right? I've been in fire and life safety for almost 20 years now. And I've been inspecting for, I'd say, about 7 years, a fire and life safety inspector, right? And in fire and life safety, you go into a building, you see the system, and the system has a signal which called a trouble. Now, this trouble is giving you warning that something's going wrong with the system, right? And then there's another signal on top of that. It's called a supervisory. The supervisory means there's something has been adjusted and causing the system to be off. And then there's another signal on top of that is an alarm. The alarm means that, okay, we have activity and this system is broken. It is operating. It is not in its normal position. Something is terribly wrong at this point. See, in society right now, what you see, the civil unrest, what you see in the destruction, the protest on mass levels, this is alarm. We're in alarm mode. Even when you talk about in families, you seeing things happen, right? When you get to the point of divorce, that's alarm. That marriage has something's terribly wrong, and it's caused the marriage system, that marriage union, to dissolve. So that these two people, there's something that's going on within them that caused the family system to go in a different direction. That means that you've been either one or the other or both have ignored the troubles, the little signals that show that there's something off. And then the supervisor let you know that something's been tampered with that shouldn't have been. Now we got to the point of alarm. We are now seeing the results of the ignoring the signs of the troubles and the supervisories. Or the supervisory is telling you that, hey, there's an attention that is needed right now. It's needed right now. Trouble means like, hey, look, hey, okay, well, this is something that's not critical, but something is happening that is off. Supervisory, something's been activated. Alarm, we are in the state of an emergency. Same thing goes for the civil unrest. We are in a state of an emergency. Instead of being proactive, we have to react. This has been going on for years. Now you're seeing some reactions happen because stuff is getting burnt down. Property is getting destroyed. People are tired. Same thing happens within yourself. Same thing happens on a community level, in ministries, in businesses, and so forth and so on, et cetera, et cetera. This same system applies. There's a trouble going on. Somebody or something is there's some little unrest. There's a small little unrest happening within yourself or within the family or within the community, within the region, within the state, within the government, whatever the case may be. But when do we get to the point? Why do we have to, not when, but why do we have to get to the point of alarm, emergency, in order for us to actually do something? Why does it have to get to that point? Why? Because so many people, there's so much that's happening. And for many, the trouble signs have been there the entire time. And many people know the trouble signs before they get to the point of supervision has been disturbed. You understand what I'm saying? You get to the point where there's a supervisory on a fire alarm system. That means that supervisory is telling you, hey, somebody touched something they shouldn't have. Same thing that goes for our children. Your child is coming to you saying they crying. When they're crying, the child is crying, that's a supervisory. Somebody did something to the child. You touched the child. You violated the child. Adult crying, something has happened. Some activity, some physical activity, something physical or emotional has happened that has caused a disturbance. It's a disturbance. And when you get to the point of a full-blown alarm, this is when you see much arguing happen. You're seeing the results of arguing and so forth to an all-time high. Unrest. There's no peace. There's nothing to keep the atmosphere is not at peace. How much longer do we have to do this within our families, within our communities, within the system, the law enforcement system, our leadership in Congress? How much longer do we have to get to the point of there being alarms before we do something? We have been reacting the entire time instead of being proactive. I believe in being proactive. I'm a proactive type person. I like to see things happen before. I like to address, see nothing happens until something happens. Let's make this thing happen before we get to this point. See, for many people, in regards to me, I address things on site. If you do something to me I'm not feeling, I'm going to talk about it right then. I'm not going to wait. Why am I going to delay the waiting? Especially if we're one-on-one and you do something, I'm going to talk about it. Yo, hey, let me holler at you real quick. Let's sit down. Let's wrap a taste. Because I've been down that road of avoidance. I've been down that road of allowing things to fester within me, getting to the point of a supervisory and a full-blown alarm blowing up. When you at the point of blowing up, losing yourself, some people at the point of wanting to, they become suicidal, that is an alarm. We are beyond the trouble in going on within you. We are beyond these signs, the supervisory, something's been tampered with. When you get to the point where you are at the point of breakdown, breaking up, destroying, destruction, separation, confusion, that is the point of alarm. That is the point we should never have to get to because the signs are there. There has been too much avoidance. And I raise my hand because I have been guilty of that in my life before. I'm glad I see now, hindsight is 20/20, and I can see some of the things and some of the areas and some of the ways I could have done things better. So now in future, I can share it, teach it, consult it. I can apply it in my own life so that it's better. And for those who don't like to communicate and don't want to talk about it and so forth and et cetera, they don't like it because it doesn't feel good and it don't sound good, it don't taste good. And you continue to just want to sweep it under the rug. These are the people right here. I'm saying, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking to you. These people right here, these are the ones that's on the verge of an alarm. Even within yourself, if you refuse to talk about what's going on within you, you refuse to address what's going on with you, you refuse to face the truth. And for some, they want to point the finger to other people. For some, they want to pull focus in a whole different direction. They want to focus it elsewhere. They want to project. They do projection and all these other things that are signs of avoidance. They don't want to face it. They don't want to address it. They don't want to taste it. It doesn't taste good. It doesn't feel good. I don't like it. No, I don't want it. Hey, no. Boo-hoo. You must be willing to be the adult that you say you are. Yes. We are seeing a system full of people who want to avoid because they do not want to face the consequences of the truth being revealed. When you do not avoid, you are revealing the truth. Just like the word says, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall do what? Make you free. And if you do not want to be free, then that's a personal decision. I'm going to take another commercial break, and we'll be back. Welcome back to Be the Ultimate You Talk Radio. This is Mr. BU, and this is the last segment of the show. And yes, I know we went in a bit in regards to this avoidance, really got into the meat and potatoes in this last segment in regards to why people don't want to address. That is not the whole big picture of why. That is just a segment of why. That right there is just one part of the many of why people do not avoid. I don't want you to take this as this is the only reason why people address. This is the only reason. No. I'm speaking in part. I'm sharing in part. I want you to know that as I'm sharing with you, this is the time for you to take what you can. Eat the meats, spit out the bones, and apply. Application. I'm giving you information. I've given you some revelation in regards to it. Now, it's up to you to apply. It's up to you to take this and put it and start it off in your personal life. Because what you do for yourself personally, you will want to happen and you will see change. Once you see that change, you will want to see this happen in other people. You will want that same change to happen in other people. See, this is what inspired me to create the movement of Be the Ultimate You. Because what I've done for myself, not just myself, I've had people in my life instrumental in helping stripping away the old me, stripping away the false perceptions, stripping away some dogma, stripping away some misidentification things, addressing some hurts, some pains, addressing some of my faults. Let's just say a lot of my faults. A lot of that, addressing, not just some of them, a lot of my faults. And how to continue to addressing is a seek and address mission. When you're talking about ending avoidance in your life, it is a seek and a seek and address mission. You got to seek it out. And as you find it, you need to address it. Address it within yourself, and you will see how much better you feel. The cleansing that happens inside because you are addressing you. And that cleansing, inner cleansing that you have, that inner cleansing, you will want others to experience as well. That inner cleansing. See, many of us, I was once in that position because of what's been going on inside. I made a lot of emotional choices, emotional decisions, emotional actions based on avoidance of certain issues that has caused me to go in a direction and also misidentify myself as who I am. And remember this, I always say this, I'll share it with you now. To be misidentified is to be disqualified from whom you truly are. To be misidentified is to be disqualified from whom you truly are. So when you avoid things happening within yourself. When you avoid addressing mistakes, addressing bad choices, addressing the ills of your life, addressing some of the mental things that's going on within you based on actions and events that were misfortunate, you must address these so you can become better within your soul. What that? Your mind, your will, and your emotions. How you think, your perception, because perception is reality. How you feel, to cleanse, have that heart cleansing, because the heart can be a deceiver. And your actions. You don't want to be a person who is a double-minded person. A double-minded person is unstable in all their ways. You there. You can't make, you do one thing and say another. You're not on point. See, these are the things that happen when you have unaddressed areas in your life. And it becomes an infection that affects every area of your life. I am speaking from experience. I've experienced this before in my life. A lot of my avoided things in my life. A lot of things I have avoided because what's happened to me in my childhood and upbringing and so forth and so on. I have just put to the side, laughed it off, said it as jokes, but never really truly addressed it in my heart. These areas have become infections within me that that affected other areas in my life. Not just short-term, even some long-term things. And I really had to get the counseling that I needed. I really had to have the strong mentorship in my life. I really needed to have the strong mirror talks, the self-talks, the encouragement, the times of shedding tears and feeling some kind of way about what's going on and what's happened. You must do the same. You don't have to, but I highly recommend that you do. I highly recommend that you address you. I highly recommend that you address people that you need to. I highly recommend if you are in a workplace and you see some things happening and you know it can be better, address it. You have to kill this whole notion of snitches get stitches when it comes to people, the mass production of producing more people who will be in the same boat that you are. Avoidance. We have to get to the point where we can do it for not only for ourselves, but even to allow, allow our children to see, our mentees. They must be able to see the example of someone who's willing to stand up, who's not part of the problem. They are a part of the solution. They need to see this. This is a part of what I had a segment on training up our replacements, living for the future. This is a part of living for the future. Because if you're going to tell someone something and encourage them to do something that you're not willing to do, that makes you hypocritical. And how many of us have been hypocrites in this area in our lives? We want to tell everyone to be able to avoid. And you know what? I know one thing in my years of ministry, of standing in front of people, speaking to them and so forth and so on. And not only that, listening, being a student. I've been a student to some great leaders. But then there are areas in their life they were hypocritical. Great leaders who can do things and because they've been hypocrites in certain areas of their life does not make them horrible people. It just makes them, these are broken people that need to be fixed by addressing certain areas within themselves. Same thing on the workplace. I've seen some great people who have great abilities, but because they have not addressed certain things in their own personal lives, it has become an infection within them, which affected their progress on the job. See how that works? Many of us are suffering from some unaddressed wounds, unaddressed issues, unaddressed conversations, unaddressed this, that, and the third, which has become you get to the point we just avoid. And avoidance, you've been hitting the avoid button for years. Avoid this, avoid. It's like you're on a turnbuckle And this is coming up. Oh, avoid. Avoid. Oh, here's something. Avoid. You just got that avoid button. You just hitting it. Avoid. 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 And what happens when you get to a point in your life where there's something you can't avoid? You must face it. You must address it. You must stand up for yourself. Or you get to a position where you must stand up for what is right. For what is right. Or will you be the person who is silence is consent? I'm not going to say nothing. Okay, but you know about it. You consent to it. You're a part of it. Guilty by association. Bill guilty. You're an accessory to it because you know about it. You was there when it happened. And because you refuse to say something, you are just as guilty as the one committing the act. There are many people who are living with that guilt. They're living with that guilt and shame because they felt that they, at a time of when they should have exhibited courage and leadership, they've exhibited the opposite. They hid, they ran, they cowered down. They didn't do what was necessary to bring the proper results, the right results, results that would produce great effects, productivity, better health and wellness in many people. Hear that. Come on now. You don't have to live in guilt and shame all your life. You don't have to live wondering what would have happened if I. If you need to just address this within yourself because it's been so long, do it. Handle it. I share this with the utmost. I share this with my whole heart. We as a people, we must stop the avoidance. Those who are in law enforcement, the leaders and so forth, stop avoiding what is in our faces. Those who are in Congress, stop avoiding what just so you can maintain a seat. You want to maintain your seat so you cover up. So much corruption happens because of avoidance. So much bitterness, hate, and anger happens because of avoidance. It doesn't have to be that way. We are better people than that. Not just as a community, but as human beings. I love you all out there. This has been a great start to the season 2. And I look forward to what is to come. More shows, great content, and great people. And I have some great announcements coming in the future in regards to events. So stay tuned. Hey, be bold, be true, be the ultimate you. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. I'm Mr. B-U, and until next time, be bold, be true, be the ultimate you.